What is going on, everybody? In this video, I'm going to be going through every single FBS team for college football, and I am going to rank every college football team's odds to make the college football playoff by percentages. There's 136 FBS teams, and without further ado, let's get straight into this. We are going in alphabetical order, starting off with Air Force. I think this team has around a 1% chance to make the playoffs. I don't think they're going to be that great next season. They do have a great head coach who has been there a while, but Air Force is coming off of a bad season. They were good 2 seasons ago, but they really have to recover. The next team is Akron. I also have them at 1%. They did have solid quarterback play and showed some good things on offense last season, but they don't have much going for them. I have them at 1%. I have Alabama at 50%. I really think this Alabama team is being disrespected. I'm 50-50 on them. I like the staff with DeBoer and now Ryan Grubb as the OC. The defense should be one of the best in the country, and I think the offense will be a lot better. I do have them at 50%. I have App State at 1%. They did lose Joey Aguilar, and they have a pretty good roster turnover. They're coming off of a pretty underwhelming season, and I don't see them bouncing back and making the playoffs. I have them at 1%. I have Arizona at 4%. You got to give them the benefit of the doubt because it is the Big 12. I can't really rank any of these Big 12 teams at 1% unless they're just very bad because it's so unpredictable. But Arizona has some really good offensive upside with Fafita back and a couple of good running backs coming in, and also Chris Hudson at wide receiver. This is a team to watch out for. It's very unlikely, but I have them at 4%. The next team is Arizona State. I have them at 35%. I think it's very likely that they make their way back to the playoffs, certainly the Big 12 title, but it will be difficult to make the playoffs back-to-back seasons, and they do lose Cam Scatabo. But regardless, this is a good team with great production returning. I have them at 35%. I have Arkansas at 3%. I think Taylor Green and Bobby Petrino at OC could create some magic with the offense, but the defense is not that great. So I only have them at 3%. They don't have a great shot at making the playoffs. I have Arkansas State at 2%. I can't quite put them at 1%. This is a team that if they get hot, they could be a sneaky playoff contender. Definitely with Jalen Renoir back at quarterback. But regardless, I don't expect much from them. I do have Army at 10%. Knowing how their last couple of seasons have went, especially last season winning double-digit games, they are in a pretty good conference, and if they can be consistent, this could be a team to watch out for in the Group of 5 playoff race. I have Auburn at 10%. There's still some holes to clean up. The quarterback position's a question and the offensive line, and they have a tough schedule. I only have them at 10%. But this team is talented, so watch out. I have Ball State at 1%. They've been one of the worst FBS teams in recent memory. I have Baylor at 20%. This is a team that I am pretty high on, and they have some huge home games. If they manage to go 10-2 with the schedule, they could be in the playoffs. I really like what they have on offense with Sawyer Robertson and Bryson Washington and some of those receivers. This is a team to watch. I have them at 20%. I have Boise State at 45%. It's close to 50-50 on if they make the playoffs or not. It's going to be tough for Boise State to go back-to-back seasons making the playoffs, especially without Ashton Jeanty, but this team does have some very good return in production. They should be good. I have Boston College at 2%, leaning more towards 1%, but I gave them the benefit of the doubt. This is just one of those teams where you never know, maybe they get hot. Bill O'Brien in this squad was alright in year one, and Grayson James is a quarterback to watch out for. I have Bowling Green at 1%. This team showed some good things last season, but it's very hard for a team out of the MAC to make the playoffs, and I don't think Bowling Green would be that team. And same could be said about Buffalo. They're in the MAC, and I also have them at 1%. BYU is an interesting story. I have them at 10%. I really think they have an all-around solid squad, but they don't have great talent. They lost some of their best leaders. They lost Keelan Marion at receiver and Harrison Taggart on defense. They lost Jake Retzlaff at quarterback, but they are riding off of a great season, and maybe they put some magic together. I just don't see it. I have them at 10%. I have California at 3%. This is a team that has a lot of question marks with a huge roster turnover, but maybe Justin Wilcox finally put something together. They do have some good defensive upside, but I don't see it. I have Central Michigan at 1%. They don't have much going for them. And I'm also putting Charlotte at 1%. though I really like the hire of Tim Alba, and I think he'll be an excellent coach. It's going to take a lot for Charlotte to make the playoffs, let alone even make a bowl game. I have Cincinnati at 4%. They could have an Arizona State type of story. Scott Satterfield is trying to get this team over the hump. They were very solid last year. They were a lot better than their record shows, and they return a lot, and they have some great offensive talent. They return Brendan Sorsby at quarterback, and this is a team to watch. I have them at 4%. I have Clemson at 65%. This is the first team I have above 50%. I'm very confident Clemson will make the playoffs. Though they do have a couple of tough games on that schedule, they play South Carolina and LSU. There's potential for them to drop both those games, and maybe they lose a sneaky game to Georgia Tech or maybe Louisville. But regardless, this is a Clemson team that is first in the country for return in production. I do like them to make the playoffs. I have them at 65%. I have Coastal Carolina at 3%. This team has been pretty solid in recent memory, and they got some guys back for next season. Similar to BYU, I have Colorado at 10%. I think both those teams are kind of in the same story. They could range from anywhere around 4 to 10 wins. I think they both have high ceilings and low floors. But Colorado has a great head coach in Deion Sanders who has overperformed expectations every season. They got a couple of quarterbacks. They should be alright at the line of scrimmage, and they have talent at wide receiver. I have them at 10%. Now, Colorado State, I'm a little bit higher on them than some people might be, but I have them at 5%. I think Jay Norvell is an underrated head coach. They weren't far off in the Mountain West Conference title race last season, and they could be a team out of the Mountain West. If they manage to sneak their way into the conference title game and possibly beat a team like Boise State, they could be a team to watch out for. It's unlikely, but I am giving them 5%. I have Delaware at 1%. They are a newcomer. I have Duke at 6%. With Darian Mensah and some good production, this could be a team that pulls something off. Manny Diaz definitely overperformed in year one. Who knows what this team can do in year two with a pretty favorable schedule. Duke is a team to watch, but they just don't have a lot of talent. We'll see. I have them at 6%. I have East Carolina at 3%. This team's been competitive. They had that win over NC State, and they returned some decent talent. I have Eastern Michigan at 1%. They don't have much going for them. I also have FIU at 1%. They don't have much going for them either. I have Florida at 17%, a weird number, but that's kind of how I feel about this Florida team. I think it's going to be difficult for this team to make the playoffs, especially with the schedule. But they have the quarterback, and they should be really good at the line of scrimmage. I just don't know if they have the skill position players to do it with that schedule. They need guys to step up at wide receiver. Eugene Wilson is back. Dallas Wilson is a young guy to watch out for. But it's going to be tough in the SEC, and Billy Napier still has a lot to prove. I have FAU at 1%, another pretty average group of five team that I just don't see doing much. I have Florida State at 6%. A lot of people might think this is high, but this is a Florida State team with the talent that they can bounce back any year. And that's how college football is nowadays, and Florida State has very good talent. They completely revamped the staff, and they really do have a new team. Don't be surprised if Florida State has a big bounce back season. Do I see it happening? Probably not. That's why I only have them at 6%. I have Fresno State at 5%. Look, this team does have question marks. They're coming off one of their worst seasons in a minute. E.J. Warner is a questionable pickup at quarterback, but they do have a good defense, and I think this could be a team that bounces back. They're known for being a historically good program, and you never want to count Fresno State out. I have them at 5%. I have another team above 50%. I have Georgia at 65%. It's hard to see a world where Georgia misses the playoffs, but they were close last season. And Georgia does have a tough schedule again, and the SEC is not easy. But I am confident in this team to make the playoffs. I think they upgraded their receiver room. Definitely an area that needed work. They have a good defense, and Gunnar Stockton should get the job done at quarterback. I have Georgia Southern at 3%. This is a team that keeps getting better. Clay Helton is an alright head coach, and they returned some good skilled players. They got their quarterback coming back. This is a team that if they get hot, they could be a contender in the Sun Belt. I have them at 3%. I have Georgia State at 1%. They're coming off of a terrible season and they just have too much to prove. I have Georgia Tech at 20%. Georgia Tech has a couple of games where they could shock the world. They play Georgia and Clemson. And outside of those two games, the schedule is very easy. It's unbelievable. I honestly like this Georgia team to probably get around 10 wins, but they might need to do more than that. We'll see, but I do have them at 20%. I think they're going to be an improved squad next season, and they have a really solid head coach. I have Hawaii at 1%. They have some good offensive talent, but the defense just hasn't been there, and I don't see them doing much. I have Houston at 5%. Similar to Cincinnati, this is a team that could totally bounce back and have a really good season. I think some of the pieces are there, and I certainly think the head coach is there in Willie Fritz. He did a very good job at Tulane. And they got a five-star quarterback and Connor Wigman coming in, a very solid defense, Dean Connors at running back, and some solid options at wide receiver. I'd say they were better than their record shows last season. They were playing some good defense in the back half of last season. I have Illinois at 25%. A lot of people really like this team to make the playoffs, but I think they're a bit overrated. They won a lot of one-score games last season, and they lost a very good receiver and a very good running back. There's other teams in the Big 12 also getting better, but I will say they have a pretty favorable schedule. They might be able to go 10-2, so I am putting them at 25%. Right behind them, I have Indiana at 23%. Now, I think Indiana will actually be a better football team, but they have an even tougher schedule than Illinois. They have to play both Oregon and Penn State and a couple of other tough teams. And it's going to be tough for Kurt Cignetti to get this team to the playoffs back-to-back seasons, but there still is certainly a chance I have them at 23%. I have Iowa at 5%. I'm not very high on this team, but hey, maybe the FCS quarterback puts something together. Maybe this defense gets back to playing very good defense. And they certainly don't have the toughest schedule in the world. Iowa could be a solid team. I have Iowa State at 18%. I am still pretty high on this team, and they're a team to watch. Matt Campbell is the consistent winner at head coach. They got Rocco Becht back in one of the best backfields in the country, and they add some good receivers as well, and the defense should be solid. I have Jayville State at 1%. Maybe if they were returning their squad and their head coach from last season, I'd have them higher, but they lost a lot of their squad, almost all their top talent, and they also lost their head coach. I have them at 1%. Now, James Madison is an interesting team. I have them at 11%. They picked up a very productive quarterback in Matthew Sluka. George Pettaway is back. They have one of the best group of five backfields in the country. Two of their top backs are coming back. And they did a very good job on the portal, especially with adding wide receivers. Bob Chesney is a good head coach, and this team should be better next season. And this is a team to honestly watch in the group of five playoff race. They might not be up in the top tier of the group of five teams, but maybe they make their way into that top tier this season. I do have them at 11%. I have Kansas at 5%. Lance Leipold has done some good things as a head coach. He has turned around that Kansas team. They got Jalen Daniels back at quarterback, and the Big 12 is unpredictable. I have them at 5%. I have Kansas State at 22%. It's really hard to rank these Big 12 teams' percentages because the playing field is very even and wide open, but Kansas State does have the quarterback and a good running back in Dylan Edwards. They should be one of the favorites in that conference. There's just some question marks on defense. I have them at 22%. I have Kennesaw State at 1%. They're one of the worst FBS teams. I have Kent State at 1%. They're also one of the worst FBS teams. I have Kentucky at 1%. They're one of the worst SEC teams, and I don't see this team bouncing back with the schedule. I have Liberty at 3%. I'm really not high on this team. I think they've kind of fallen off. But let's not forget, they went undefeated 2 seasons ago. And they do get Ethan Vasco at quarterback. Maybe they get back to winning double-digit football games. But if they want to make the playoffs, they will probably have to go undefeated, and that's going to be tough. So yeah, I do only have Liberty at 3%. I also have the Louisiana Raging Cajuns at 3%. This is a team that won double-digit games last season. Maybe they should be higher on this list, but they are losing some good talent. I have Louisiana Monroe at 1%. They've been a pretty bad group of five team. I have Louisiana Tech at 1%. Although they were better than their record shows, they're just not that good, and they're in a pretty bad conference. I have Louisville at 18%. This is a team that has a favorable schedule in a couple of spots where they could get a big win. And they are going to have one of the top offenses, not just in the ACC, but I think in the country. With Miller Moss at quarterback, a rising star at running back, and Isaac Brown, and of course a very good receiver room. This is a team to watch. I have them at 18%. I have LSU at 40%. I think this is a team that is very likely to make the playoffs, but it is the SEC, so I can't quite get them above 50% or anywhere near that. but 40% is a solid spot for this team. Brian Kelly should get this team to the playoffs. This is one of his most talented rosters in a long time. They got a quarterback and they got a defense on the rise with Blake Baker. I have Marshall at 2%. I almost put them at 1%, but this has just been a very good team in the Sun Belt. I can't put them any higher though because they lost like all of their roster. They are in shambles. I have them at 2%. I have Maryland at 1%. They are turning downhill. I don't expect anything from this team. I have Memphis at 16%. They lost a ton of talent, but they also did a very good job in the portal, and I love the portal additions. I can't rank them any higher though because I just don't trust all the newness that they have. But man, if you look at the talent with Brandon Lewis at quarterback, a very good dual threat quarterback coming in from Nevada, CJ Smith and Jaden Thompson coming in at receiver, a bunch of good additions on defense, this is a team that could be dangerous. I have Miami at 25%. They do have a tough schedule, and I still have question marks with the defense, and the offense is probably going to take a small step back. Can I trust Mario Cristobal to get this team to the playoffs? I don't think so, not quite yet. They had one of the easiest schedules in college football last season and still couldn't make the playoffs. I do have them at 25%. Maybe that's not bad, but some people might want to see that higher. I have Miami, Ohio at 2%. It's hard to see a team out of the MAC making the playoffs, but Miami, Ohio could be one of those teams. But they do have a pretty good roster turnover, so I don't know. I have Michigan at 18%. I'm really thinking this team is a bit overrated heading into next season. I've seen a lot of people picking them to win 10 games. I myself only have them winning 8 games. But if Bryce Underwood puts something together and the defense is a top 5 defense, this will probably be a playoff team. I have Michigan State at 4%. Maybe that's too high, but I do like Aiden Childs at quarterback. I think he's going to be much better and cut back on turnovers. And I like Jonathan Smith at head coach. And there's definitely some spots for the Big Ten to get some teams in. I have Middle Tennessee at 1%. They're a pretty bad football team. I have Minnesota at 10%, similar to Michigan State. There's some spots open in the Big Ten, but Minnesota is definitely a team that can make the playoffs. If you look at the schedule, they honestly have a path to 10-2 and sneaking their way into the playoffs. They got a very good back coming back in Darius Taylor, and a very solid head coach in PJ Fleck as well. I have Mississippi State at 1%. There's just too many concerns on defense and a tough schedule in the SEC. There's no way they bounce back and make the playoffs or anything like that. I have Missouri at 7%, a weird number, but I didn't want to put them at 10% or 5%. I think this is a team that has some talent and an easy schedule, but the SEC is just a tough conference, and they do have questions on offense with Will Pribula. I don't think he'll be that great. I have Missouri State at 1%. They're a newcomer in the FBS, and they shouldn't be that great. Now, I have Navy at 26%. This is one of my favorite group of 5 teams. If it isn't Boise State, it could be Navy. They got a lot of guys back, and of course, Blake Horvath at quarterback. They're coming off of a very excellent season and a great end to last season. This is a team that could definitely make work with the schedule and go to the playoffs. I have them at 26%. I have NC State at 4%. Dave Doeren overperforms with this NC State team a lot. He's a pretty good head coach, and they got a quarterback in CJ Bailey. I'm giving them 4%. I have Nebraska at 18%. They also have a favorable schedule, and there's some spots open in the Big Ten. They got a quarterback. They got even better receivers this season. The defense should be good, but they do lose Tony White, so that is a concern. But regardless, I'm putting Nebraska at 18%. I have Nevada at 1%. They lost a very good quarterback, and they just haven't been good in recent memory. I also have New Mexico at 1%. I really do like their head coach, but they lost their quarterback, and they have concerns. I have them at 1%. I also have New Mexico State at 1%. They're just not that great. I have North Carolina at 13%. I think this is a team that has playoff potential, if I'm being honest, because they have one of the easiest schedules in college football, and I also think they're going to have a solid defense. They did a very good job on the portal. Harrison Taggart is a great addition at linebacker. They did a very good job on the portal, and I think Gio Lopez is a great addition at quarterback. I have North Texas at 1%. They missed a bowl game last season and they lost one of their top quarterbacks. They should be solid again, a bowl team, but it's hard for me to believe that this team will make the playoffs. Same could be said about Northern Illinois, especially with what they lost. I have them at 1%. I have Northwestern at 1%. They're not going to do anything in the Big Ten. And I have Notre Dame at 70%. That is my highest percentage so far. I think this team is almost a lock for the playoffs. It's hard to say any team is a lock for the playoffs because I think it's absolutely wide open next season. And a lot of question marks with these teams, a lot of new quarterbacks. Notre Dame is one of those teams with a new quarterback. But I trust that defense and Jeremiah Love at running back and a very improved receiving core. And CJ Carr should get the job done at quarterback. This is going to be a dangerous football team again. I have Ohio at 4%, and honestly, I should have this team higher. They got a good quarterback returning. I know they lose some good production, but they are coming off of an excellent season, one of the more underrated teams in college football. They got a great quarterback and a good running back, and I'm sure the roster is going to be intact next season. I have Ohio State at 67%. Some people might have concerns with this team because of the schedule. There's a possibility they miss the playoffs because of 3 losses to Texas, Penn State, and Michigan, of course. But I'm just going to trust Ryan Day and this talented team with Jeremiah Smith at receiver. I have them at 67%. They should be in the playoffs. I have Oklahoma at 15%. I think this is a team that has potential to get hot. The offensive line is a concern, but John Mateer at quarterback is a huge get, and the defense is a top defense in the SEC. If they could put it together on offense, they are a playoff contender. I have Oklahoma State at 3%. I really don't see a great roster, but it is Mike Gundy. You never know. I have them at 3%. I have Old Dominion at 1%. They're just not that great. I have Ole Miss at 15%. I'm kind of thinking the same thing with Oklahoma. There's a lot of concerns and a lot of newness on that roster, but Lane Kiffin has been building this team, and if they get hot, they could be a dangerous team. I have them at 15%. I have Oregon at 70%. I don't see them missing the playoffs. I have them right there with Notre Dame. If they had Ohio State scheduled, maybe I would have them lower because Oregon does have a completely revamped roster. They only return a few starters from last season, but Dan Lanning is an excellent head coach and they are super talented. And they only have one game on the schedule that is a toss-up, and it's against Penn State. I have Oregon State at 7%. I think this is a sneaky team. They could be like Washington State last year. I love the pickup of Malik Murphy at quarterback. They got a great running back coming back and some solid additions on defense. And of course, Trent Walker at wide receiver. This is a solid team. I have Penn State at 95%, and honestly, I think this is the only team that is a complete lock for the playoffs next season. I see no scenario where this team misses the playoffs unless a couple of the teams on their schedule just have crazy seasons. I can't put 100% because it is college football, you never know, but they are 95%. This is a Penn State team that I think could win the national title with who they have back. The defense is in good hands, the receiver room looks great. They got Drew Aller in one of the best backfields. And again, the schedule is very favorable and they always go 10-2. But next season, I think there's potential for 12-0. I have Pitt at 6%. They do have some good returning offensive talent. It's just a matter of can they get those pieces to gel. I think they could be dangerous if they do. That's why I have them at 6%. I have Purdue at 1%. Maybe Barry Odom just does something crazy in year one with all the new talent. But it is the Big Ten Conference, and they were terrible last season. I have them at 1%. I also have Rice at 1%. I don't expect them to be that great. I have Rutgers at 1%. They're just not a super talented team, and the schedule does not make it easy. I have Sam Houston at 1%. I don't see them making a playoff run. I also have San Diego State at 1%. Don't see them making a playoff run. And I also don't see San Jose State making a playoff run with who they lost. I have them at 1%. I have SMU at 20%. I do think they're going to take a step back. But they do have Kevin Jennings back, and they should be one of the better teams in the ACC. I have South Alabama at 1%. They lost their quarterback in Gio Lopez. And again, this is just another average Group of 5 team with a lot to prove. I have South Carolina at 15%. I have a lot of question marks on defense. They lost a lot of guys to the NFL. The offensive line is a concern, and they need playmakers to step up. But they have 2 of the best players in college football, Lenore Sellers and Dylan Stewart on the edge, and a very solid head coach. This is a team that could be dangerous. I have them at 15%. I have South Florida at 2%. They've been alright the last 2 seasons, and I really do like their head coach. Alex Golich has been solid. and they do return their quarterback. I have them at 2%. This is a team to watch. But again, it's just hard to see a team like this making the playoffs out of the group of five. There's only a few teams that I really see. I have Southern Miss at 1%. They went 1-11 last season. I have Stanford at 1%. They might be the only ACC team I have at 1%. There's just so many concerns and with the travel on the schedule, and they have a new head coach as well. I have Syracuse at 3%. I'm not high on them at all. They have one of the most brutal schedules, but their head coach did overperform last season, and maybe they put something together. I have TCU at 10%. They have a very tough schedule, but I also think they're going to have one of the most electric offenses in the Big 12. They got Hoover back, and the defense could take strides with the coordinator. I have Temple at 1%. They're a pretty bad football team. I have Tennessee at 10%. They do have a pretty favorable schedule, but I don't see this team making their way back to the playoffs. They had one of the biggest roster turnovers in the SEC, and I really don't like Joey Aguilar like that. And they lost Dylan Sampson at running back. I have Texas at 65%. I have them right there with Georgia. They should be in the playoffs, but it is the SEC. It's a tough conference, so you never know. I have Texas A&M at 18%. With their returning talent intact, this is a team that I think could make the playoffs. I like Mike Elko as head coach. They have a favorable schedule, and I think they're going to be very solid at the line of scrimmage. But it is 8-4 Texas A&M. We know how this team is, so I can't rank them any higher than 18%. I have Texas State at 1%. They lost a lot of talent, so I can't put them any higher. I have Texas Tech at 35%. I have them right there with Arizona State. I think Texas Tech is the more talented team, but Arizona State has a more intact roster. I think Texas Tech is going to be the real deal. I have them at 35%. I have Toledo at 2%. I think they're going to have a pretty good offense, and if the defense can play up to the standard, this could be a sneaky good team. They pulled off a couple of Power 4 wins recently. I have Troy at 1%. They have a lot of questions. I have Tulane at 18%. They lost Darian Mensah at quarterback, but they also got another good quarterback pickup. They lost Mekhi Hughes at running back, but a lot of the roster is intact. They returned some good production. We'll see what they can do. I have them at 18%. I have Tulsa at 1%. They should be pretty bad. Same could be said about UAB. I have them at 1%. I have UCF at 3%. I'm only giving them 3% because it's the Big 12. You never know. I have UCLA at 3%. They actually have some good talent, and Nico at quarterback. I just don't know if they're going to be able to put it together. I have UConn at 2%. They were pretty solid last season. I have UMass at 1%. They've been one of the worst teams in the FBS. I have UNLV at 25%. I really like the additions this team has made. I think Anthony Calandria could be the best quarterback in the group of five coming over from Virginia. If not Alex Orji, he's a great runner. They hired Dan Mullen and they have a completely new roster, but they have a very good transfer portal class. And if it is not Boise State, I think this is the team to watch in the group of five. I have USC at 22%. Some people might think this is high, but I think this team has a massive ceiling heading into next season. They have one of the best 1-2s at wide receiver, a solid quarterback. I really like their defensive coordinator heading into year two. This is a team that lost a ton of one-possession games last season. They were a lot better than their record shows. They just need to get comfortable with that brand of Big Ten football, and I think they have potential to do that in the near future. I have UTEP at 1%. They're a pretty bad team. I have UTSA at 3%. They return a lot of production and a very solid quarterback. They could get back to being what they usually are, around a 10-win football team. I have Utah at 13%. This is a contender in the Big 12. I do think they're going to have a big bounce back. It's really the defense, the quarterback, running back, and the offensive line. We'll see how they are at receiver, but they should have an elite rushing attack with Dampier and Wayshawn Parker, a very underrated back. I have Utah State at 1%. They shouldn't be that great. Now, I have Vanderbilt at 4%. Maybe this is too high, but I think this team has some sneaky good talent. A lot of people are backing off of them just because they are Vanderbilt. But they have some favorable home games once again. Diego Pavio's back at quarterback, a very good tight end, a good running back, some good receivers, and a very good defense with some good portal additions. This team will be a bowl team again. I have them at 4%. I have Virginia at 3%. Maybe they get over the hump and have a huge season. I have Virginia Tech at 4%. They get Kyron Jones back at quarterback, so that's a plus. But outside of him, they only return a few starters. I have Wake Forest at 2%. I would have them at 1% with Stanford, but they do have a new head coach who made some very solid portal additions. He's got a good track record. I have Washington at 10%. I think they have some very good offensive talent with Denzel Boston at receiver, Jonah Coleman, and Damon Williams at quarterback. I think he's going to be a very good quarterback. And the defense does have some guys. I have Washington State at 5%. They do have an easy schedule, but I do expect them to take a step back. I have West Virginia at 3%. Maybe Rich Rodriguez puts something together in year one, but this team is not looking great. I have Western Kentucky at 1%. I don't see them being that great. They have so many concerns. I know they've been winning games, but they're in the Conference USA. I have Western Michigan at 1%. They're not that great. I have Wisconsin at 1%. I see no way this team makes the playoffs with the schedule. This is a team that is in complete trouble. Luke Fickell might get fired. And lastly, it's been a long video, but let's finish it off with Wyoming. I have another 1%. I don't see them making the playoffs. But anyways, that is going to do it for today's video. You guys let me know down in the comments below, who am I sleeping on or who am I too high on? This is only the beginning of my preseason predictions. I'm going to be doing conference predictions, playoff predictions, a preseason top 25. I'm excited to get hyped for this season. But let me remind you guys to like the video and also subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. And if you guys love college football, then you'll love this channel because we upload a ton of college football content. And we basically cover everything on this channel, so definitely consider subscribing. And also consider checking out my socials down in the description below. But that is going to do it, guys, and peace out.